Hello and welcome back to the DayLuna Human Design Podcast with your hosts Dana and Shayna. We are interviewing a special guest today, and honestly, a soul sister straight from the heart. We're connected through mutual friends in our real life. Tessa Frommer, thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling so lit up and jazzed to be here with you two. It's such a treat. And the sun is shining through my window, which just makes me feel amazing. And it couldn't be a more beautiful Wednesday morning.
Yes,
Oh my
I
gosh.
love it. You're liquid
It's
sunshine.
you really are. Like you're wearing yellow, your gold earrings. It just you feel that's exactly what I was feeling too, Dana. But it's just so funny. It's starting this podcast before we hit record. We're just talking about all of these human design things. And it just reminds me of how natural and easy it is to be around someone else who speaks the same language of human design. And how I don't know, it's just like this light, liberating feeling, and it's so fun. And I often think, because I talk about human design so much in my regular life and like
With
everything that
people
I
who don't
observe.
speak this language.
Yeah, and everything that I observe, I'm always like analyzing it through a human design lens, like, oh, that's because they have a defined minor, oh, that's because they have the gate of chakra, oh, that's because like everything in the chart, right? And I'm like, am I like obsessively crazy, or like is this actually really fascinating and interesting? And then I meet someone like you who I'm meeting for the first time, and then just hearing you do the same things, it just feels so good. And I think everyone listening can resonate with that feeling of like, am I crazy? And then you meet someone who's on your same frequency and you're like, oh no, 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 there they are. Like, this feels good. This feels like a hug. So yeah, this is going to be just a fun, nerdy human design conversation, which I'm so here for.
And we actually don't have that many other human design coaches and guides on the podcast. Like oftentimes when we're interviewing someone, we'll have someone who has a different expertise and they're teaching us something new. So it's actually like really rare and special for us to be here in this call with someone who is a human design fanatic and speaks this language and guides people in such a beautiful way. And just to give everyone a little bit of backstory about how we know Tessa, if you've been to any of our retreats and you've met Lexa, she lives in Colorado and knows Tessa. They're in the same soul community there. So when I went to Colorado, I met Tessa and immediately fell in love with her. I've literally never in my life met a more vital, alive, sparkly, juicy sacral than yours. When you walked into the room, I felt like your energy was just radiating this amazing, juicy, healthy sacral. And for us as projectors, Shane and I, it's just so special when you meet someone who's really embodying that and has such a strong life force. And I know that that's a big theme in your human design coaching, is literally life force energy coaching. So I just wanted to give that background. And also, like, for your birthday, you had dolphin themed birthday. I was like, this is my literal soul sister. Like, we are born in the same cosmic fractal. I'm so happy to be here with you. But just tell us a little bit about like how you got into human design. Like, what brought you into this work?
Oh my God. It is such a fucking gift to be seen by you two, like squared. It is just amazing. And that thing that you're talking about is just this safety to be the most like true, authentic version of myself, and to be that like fullest and celebrated is, I think, really the core of like sisterhood and human design. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So I started nerding on out it right after I graduated college in 2018. And I was on, like, I don't know if you've ever like looked up human design in your early days on YouTube and seen that like bald guy just like floating in space on the YouTube videos talking about the gates in a very cryptic like way. He's got a very
Oh
weird
my
name.
God.
That's the guy who I started at my advertising job at my desk taking notes from,
Wow.
and like trying to translate what the fuck he was saying into like my real life. And then the next thing I started on was incarnation crosses. I was like so fascinated on that. So then I would take all of my friends' incarnation crosses, I would take notes on them, and then I would read them to them and tell them about themselves.
Wow.
So that was like my core initial journey into it, but it really catapulted into space when I was on a 6-month sabbatical. Right around the pandemic, I quit my job and my husband and I went and traveled the world. And I ended up in Thailand studying human design physically, the physical mechanics in the muscles, in the genes, with a guy whose mom studied human design with Ra Uru. And so his mom was a reflector. And so she raised her two sons according to their human designs. So my like physical coach, his name is Austin Pasha, trained me in person on how to really use and feel my sacral.
Wow.
So I had like only really mental concepts of it prior to that. Like, okay, I need to use my gut. Okay, I have a strong gut guidance. But I didn't really have it reverberating back to me and someone calling it out and highlighting it for me. And I'm a really social learner. And so all of that training applied in real life was so cool. And just to give an example of that, like basically our schedule was like we'd have a one-on-one workout that day, and then he and I would go get a coffee, and that could happen at any time in the day. And so he would come up to my little bungalow and he'd be like, "Hey, Tessa, do you want to work out right now?" And I'd be like, in my head. He sees that I'm just reading. All I'm doing is sitting here reading my book. I should totally work out because obviously I'm doing nothing. So I'd go, yeah, I could work out right now. And he goes, "I heard your pause. I heard your long, no worries." I wasn't asking because I needed it to happen now. I was just coming to ask, let me check in with you in a few hours. And then I would go, "Oh, thank God." And then a few hours later, he would come back to me and say, "How about we go get a latte in town? And then we gab for a bit and then we work out afterwards." And I would go, "Yes, that's what I want to do." And so that literal process over and over and over again across 6 weeks taught me how to feel my own sacral, how to hear my pauses, really feel my own desire, and also trust that the same operational system, like I'm still going to work out, I'm still going to get a coffee, I'm still going to do my things, can happen, but it doesn't have to happen in the order that I think someone else wants it to happen. Does that make sense?
Yes. Wow. That's so cool. I feel like as you're explaining, learning from him, I was like in my head thinking of like you're like Rey from Star Wars, like being trained in like a Jedi school where you're just like, do you want to work out or not? No. But honestly, it's so amazing because when we're learning about all of the gates and all of the crosses of incarnation and all of the information, and you're down the deep rabbit hole and you're finding, like, you know, when you're really falling in love with human design and you're reading all of the like transcriptions from Ron, it takes days and days to just get like the information that you're looking for. I feel like that whole journey can sometimes really pull us away from the simple embodiment, the art form of actually living your strategy and authority. And it's everything. Like none of that information is going to change your life. And we've actually come across this a lot, like meeting people who have known human design forever and they studied with OG people and they have so much knowledge. They know so much and they are like really not living in alignment. They are pushing their outer authority on other people. They're coming off in these weird misaligned ways where you're like, why does their energy feel so off? So to have that experience where you really dove head first into the actual lived embodiment with someone who was raised from childhood in their design, I mean, that's like for both of us, you know, Shayna has almost a 2-year-old and then I'm pregnant. I'm going to be giving birth any moment now. Literally could be today. It's just so like wild to meet people who are actually raised, you know, because we're starting that journey and we can't wait to see how it unfolds, but to meet someone who actually lived in that realm and how intuitively they understand the energetics, the embodiment. I just feel like it's like we can't emphasize the importance enough and the fact that it is truly an art form. It's something that you have to be connected to. It's something that you have to feel. And for that reason, I feel like so many people skip over it.
But it's so mutative. I think that's such an undertone of people living in alignment with their design is they are literal mutants in the world. Like when you're around them, you can't help but feel like you can actually be yourself. Yeah. And that is the greatest gift that you can give somebody on this planet. Like there's period, the gift of letting other people be themselves. And I think that's the undertone that this system has given me. And when you know yourself so clearly and you know that human design teaches you to see your genius, to see your pure energetic essence, to be so fully yourself, you don't look out at the world at other people or other women in lack. And instead you see you. Wow. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't have anything going on in this ajna. You've got it going on. I love it. And it's so fun to see that. And so you can really just we can mirror each other's gifts and geniuses instead of highlighting each other's differences. Such a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting with Shayna and I both being projectors. I feel like when we're with people who don't know human design and are not open to human design, oftentimes they still are really expanded by our authenticity and just like the willingness that we give out in our energy to let people be who they are. So I feel like we almost always get that glimmer of recognition from people, even if they have no idea what we teach. They're not really into learning from us. They don't want to hear a single thing. Like once we're like, oh, we'll talk about human design, it's like, nope, invitation closed. But we often can feel like this glimmer of people are like, I don't know why and I don't have a reason, but I know that when I'm around them, I feel like I get to be my weird and full self. And that feels really good. So I'm curious like how that feels for you as a generator, having an open, enveloping aura. Like, I just feel like it must feel so amazing for your energy to just spill out and fill people up. Like, do you ever get resistance from people, or do you feel like there's a really natural open flow?
The only way that I've ever felt not in flow is when I've been blocking it. When I've been self-conscious of myself, that's when I block it. And when it's a mental practice for me to just be in the moment and just trust how I'm showing up and how life is showing up, especially socially or professionally. Like that's where the tests can show up for me. And when I allow myself to be so in the moment with people, flowing, spilling over, free, goofy, weird, authentic, whatever, however, all the things that I am, then I have to watch when that social event ends to not let my mind kick in and go, oh, well, yeah, that was all pretty good, but maybe was that weird? Was that weird? I just like, no, that's a habit of my open head and open ajna to analyze and my open throat after the fact. And so I just like remember, like, that's not what I need to be doing to metabolize an experience. I just need to remember like how I felt and how I was around people is the real experience, and no one's thinking about anybody else. And so, because there's a little energy sometimes for me being like such a life force machine or being so bright that it's too much, or that it could be. Plus I'm 6'2". So I'm just like, I'm a big presence anyways. And so I just really try and stay in my body and stay in the experience and then shine my light on other people. And that really, those are some tools that really help me.
I love that. I want to get into like deeper things, but I just feel like you're such an incredible role model for people. I'm just excited to ask you like your lived experience about being a 6'2" and also being an emotional generator, because I feel like everyone listening can get so much out of that. So the first question I want to ask you is about being an emotional generator, having emotional authority and following your sacral. I'm curious, what has that journey of embodiment been like for you? Because a lot of people get confused about that in our community, and they're like, I'm confused. I'm following my sacral. I'm following my solar plexus for my authority. How do I navigate those two things together in one body? And we do feel like it's a more complex kind of energetic setup. So I'm curious to ask you what your lived experience of that has been.
Oh, girls, it is complex. It's so funny because the system has so much like yes and, or like this, but, like start, stop. And so when I learned all of this, I didn't understand it for a while. So my lived experience with it is that I have the 30-41. So I needed to understand my specific channel beyond emotional authority as an umbrella. That really helped me first and foremost, just like nerding out, studying, living, observing my emotional wave. My emotional wave is driven by experiences and attachment to what I wish those or want those experiences to look like. So I'm a really big dreamer. I've got a big imagination. And so sometimes I can live in the future of what I want things to look like, right? Which is where the tension with the sacral is. The sacral is present. And so I have to watch my emotional awareness go into the future, and then my sacral be like the metronome for like, yes, no, that feels right. I don't have an answer for that now. So I also have to notice the absence of the proper time. And I really listen for the not right now or the no. So as I'm building out like my future, because I'm a future oriented being, I'm always thinking, okay, what do I want this summer trip to Europe to look like? And then as we're making those plans, Switzerland or France, Majorca or Barcelona, I trust my sacral, but then I also make sure I have enough time before I like book those flights, because I know, because I've done it a trillion times. I've booked the flight impulsively. Oh man, it's only $50. I should do it now. And then what do I need to do a week later? Cancel it, because I booked it on the wrong date. So if I don't wait, I won't have that clarity, and I will push to do things out of a little fear sometimes, or like it has to be now and I'll rush. And so the longer I wait, the more I trust that the perfect experience and timing that I dream of will happen, and I'll be able to be so present in it if I've just like followed those sacral impulses to a point of clarity and lit up energy versus like fear or control. And I picture it like my sacral's here, and then my emotional authority is kind of sheathing it. And when I'm really lit up and I'm really emotionally high, which can be often, especially when the weather's good in Colorado, I'm like, whoa! I need to like recognize that I'm going to be more likely to be a little more impulsive, and I don't want to get myself into more sticky situations later. So I take my time.
Yeah. I have the same emotional wave. And it's chaotic for me. Go ahead, Jana.
But I love observing this emotional wave. And it's just so different getting to observe it in a sacral being versus a non-sacral being. And I love how you articulate the different experiences of your body and your sacral and your emotional wave. It's so fascinating just to get to see that you have this undefined throat, and you're lending your voice to these things that don't have a voice, right? So much of human design, the whole system is channeled, right? And it's trying to give language to something that is felt, that's energetic, and getting to witness that in you and how the language is wanting to come through you from these energetic experiences within your own body is so fascinating that I just like need to know the rest of your story. Like, you went to Thailand and you learned
Bring me back.
from this person whose mom was a reflector. I'm assuming that he had a sacral and was teaching you how to. Okay,
nice.
Manjan. And
Shayna's stuck there. She's in Thailand. She's like, I need to know.
I'm still in Thailand. I'm like, what's the rest of the story? Like, where did this go? How is it like unfolded now in your daily life? I need everything.
How did you take the action to start building? Because I feel like for so many generators, we meet generators who their sacral is expanded by something and lit up and excited, and then they don't really know how to trust themselves to fully follow through. And I feel like they kind of start to like wait for the invitation on accident. Like they're waiting for people to call them out. They're waiting for someone to give them this recognition. And it's like, well, once you have the sacral response, like, how are you building this thing and following through and trusting yourself? Because it takes so much courage. Yes, I'm curious too. Like, what was the next steps in making movement and starting to build this new life for yourself?
It really took me the time building a reservoir of experiences of being around another really healthy sacral. So this teacher, Pasha, he was it's just so. I have to just say that learning so much about human design really came from projectors. So I was never taught by another generator or a man-gen until I was in person being trained and taught. And then it really started to feel alive and less conceptual and more like I'm learning this from somebody like me, versus I actually know that I had an unconscious story of pedestalizing projectors prior to that. Like there was just kind of this like projector supremacy that I had of like, okay, they're the ones that I need to learn from, that I need to take information from.
That's
which
so
that dynamic is
interesting.
there because we're symbiotic, but I had put them up here. And so learning from a Manigen who was so lit up and so empowered and living in his design was really helpful. Plus, I should mention that Thailand is a wet kitchen, and I'm a wet kitchen, direct light environment and digestion. So having him pull out these like tiny little pieces of like, wow, that's why I love the jungle. That's why I love this climate. That's why I'm a cat in front of the window. Like I want to be in the sun. This is why I like to eat, like standing up outside. Like just these little light bulbs started to go off that were cueing me into, oh yeah, my natural preferences are okay and they're enough. And so then I started to build muscle there. and practice it. And then I was able to see how that benefited my relationship with my husband, who was my fiance at the time. So we were really able to practice this with each other. I brought him to Thailand with me. And then because I wanted to see him do it all. I wanted to see him. He's also a Manigen, emotional 3740 51. And so, and he's fully defined except for a G center.
Wow.
So my husband is a fascinating, stable force in my life.
Yeah.
So really practicing it with him was like a huge thing for me to be like, okay, I want to bring this into our relationship. And I really want to feel like you riding your emotional wave, me riding my emotional wave, and us making decisions together. And we had this really safe container away from our home in another country without obligations or responsibilities to really become our full authentic selves and really do things separately and together and on different timings and the same, while getting really strong, physically fit and healthy. I cannot understate how life-changing that experience was for those 6 weeks. And then we continued to travel the world together after that. So all the while after I finished that program in Thailand, where I was, drawing out all the centers, drawing out all the gates, doing it with, colored pencils, and then bringing it to Pasha. And we were talking about it. It was so physical. It was so tangible for me that I decided to get certified. So I went on the Human Design Academy with Crystal Alfarero, and then I started my certification then. And then I came back to the real world. Came back to Colorado, so ready to be a reader, so jazzed up to start offering it. And so I did. I just started putting out like $50 readings. And then I realized I didn't have the confidence to be full time. I had this story that I couldn't be a reader, that I still needed to have this career and this like corporate baked in energy was still really alive in me. And it took me about 9 months to undo that, working my human design coaching job and working in my sales job, which I returned to after my sabbatical, to really realize that I wanted to just shoot one arrow, and that I'd been shooting a lot of arrows for my whole life at multiple targets, and I wasn't hitting the target. And so I just said, what if I just pursued my business, Social Alchemy Institute, human design, coaching full time, and I just saw what happened. And I had built enough confidence in my skills, and I had lived so much life on my sabbatical that I felt like I could do it, but it was still really scary, and it was still a big cliff jump. It wasn't like it wasn't rainbows and kittens and dolphins jumping in the surf. It was like very scary. And it also didn't look the way I thought it was going to look, because I thought I would have like tons of money when I started my business. Like you just mentioned before we hopped on, like a negative $200. Like that's where I was. And yet I was overflowing with the desire to help people and impact people. And I was just like, I have to give it to somebody. I have to give this knowledge somebody somewhere. And so book a call if you want to. And that was 2 years ago.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, it's so amazing to watch someone just take that leap. And when you do it in alignment, the beauty that unfolds from it. And I just think it's so interesting because when people are watching from the outside, they're like, that must have been so easy. That must have happened so quickly. Like even when you're talking about these 9 months of deconditioning from an attachment to corporate world and the safety there, 9 months from the outside looking in from someone else watching you is like lightning speed. But for you, when you just are coming from this high, like peak experience of excitement and sacral engaged, and then waiting 9 months to decondition, like that is painstaking, like that amount of time. And
you're riding a
continuing
really arduous wave.
Yeah, totally. So it's amazing just to hear your story, like in the way that you navigated it. And I think definitely for Shayna and I too, we just knew what we were doing was in alignment for us when we were starting DayLuna and starting to give readings. And we actually started with a physical human design product, which was our boxes, which we no longer do anymore, but that's where we started. And it was that same feeling of like, this is just, I'm so in love with this and it's so aligned for me that there's no other option. And we'll just throw everything, all of our heart and soul into it and have zero attachment to the outcome and see how it goes. And that leap of courage and faith, for us, it was slow and steady, like a continual showing up to what is aligned for you and what you're in love with, instead of just going back to the old patterns or the old fears or the old comforts or the old conditioning. So I love that story. And I wanted to ask you, with your Saturn return, you just turned 30, right? And you're a 6'2" profile. So this is a big deal. This is a big year for you. And I wanted to ask you, how was your Saturn return? Like in general, I mean, this story that we're talking about was like the beginning of it, right? And then through the Saturn return, did you get married? And I wanted to ask you about, my husband is a 6'3" profile, and we met when we were really young. And when I first learned that he had a 6 line and that you can't trust the person that you're with, that if you meet them before you're 30 as a 6 line, that they're going to be your soulmate. Like probably when you're 30, it'll change and it'll shift. And even though I felt so confident in my connection with my husband, it did plant this little seed of fear in me. Like, oh, what if this human design thing is true and he will change his mind once we turn 30 and we get through our Saturn return. So I wanted to ask you, just tell us a bit about like your Saturn return in general, how it's felt to transition into this 6 line energy at 30. And specifically, I'm curious, with your partner and how you felt about learning that with the 6 line.
Such a great question, because I think all of us can relate to a little fear of hearing spooky news.
Yeah.
And what do you do when you believe in something and then something in that belief system might change the course of your life in a way that you really don't want it to? I just hold so much space for the people who have been impacted by any like reading or note or piece of information that's like been tender for them, because that thing was something that I heard. Mm-hmm. And that you could have a malefically placed Saturn and that could be more impactful for your relationship. So anytime I heard anything like that, I just watched my body go, oh, God, please not us, like, please. And then there's a truth for me, which is that I'm a system blender. So while human design is my creme de la creme, I have loved many systems, and I am multi-hyphenate in many, and I find a lot of depth in the systems that built human design and then the ones that have been built on top of that. And, Gene Keys, for example, so fascinating, filling in so many poetic gaps that are missing in the language. And so I found that I didn't have to be married to that piece of channeled information from Ra about 6 lines, not entering into contracts or not doing things before they're 30. Because we met so young and I was so ready to be married. And I'm married more than I don't have any friends that are married yet, really. And so I just was like, this is just our path and our truth. And it feels so good in my body. And there's just, the whole experience was so wonderful. And I wouldn't change it for a thing, because getting married changed my life on a cellular level, receiving that love and being surrounded by all the people who have raised us and grown us into being. So I feel like it really set me up during our Saturn return to just be so grounded in what matters most, which is really people and the relationships we build and the people we share our life with. Like that matters so much more to me than any like piece of information about how it could or could not be. So I just chose to believe in our relationship and our truth. But me turning 30 was, about 20 days ago. And I was like, Q1 leading up to my birthday was such a transitional period. It was like I was ascending onto the roof in a really slow way where I knew things needed to shift. My first 30 years were a full, I was in the basement at a techno club for 30 years, it felt like, where I was just like, I'm on the ground, I'm with the people, I'm doing the thing, I'm buzzing around, I'm a honeybee, right? Like, this is what we do. We go, we see, we do everything. And over Christmas, I decided to do a silent meditation retreat and really begin my inward journey. I think I've really I've been longing for the spaciousness that I've heard the second phase of life can be like. And I'm telling you, the quarter leading up to this birthday, And then turning 30, I feel the spaciousness and the steadiness that I've been craving. It's like I'm on the roof and I can just see the sunset and the skyline more clearly. And I'm processing things from the last decade, specifically of my 20s. And it's like, I don't know, I'm sure it's only going to increase, but I can just feel the golden threads of like, this had to happen so this could happen. And I'm also just had some major shifts happen recently where I'm letting life flow again. I'm no longer clinging or bottlenecking it. I'm like, okay, from up here, like I can see that things are always going to work out. And if I just stop getting in the way, like life is going to be so, so smooth. So that plus Saturn return and this energy of going up on the roof, it's been enormous. And I'm only a few weeks into it. And I truly, I know it's going to be a very big, a big phase of life.
Yeah, I love that. I noticed it in Jared. Literally, I felt the day he turned 30. I just felt this energy shift. Like I literally saw this, which he's a 6'3", so he'll always have the 3 there.
Right.
But before that, you being a 6'2", I feel like such a different frequency than the 6'3". But for him, when he turned 30, I just was like, I was in awe watching the shifts happen, and I felt like they happened so quickly. And of course, they're still unfolding over time. Now he's 38, and I've just been watching him like ripen into being on the roof. But literally, like the morning he turned 30, I just watched it, like this energy shift within him. It was honestly amazing to witness.
I love hearing your lived experience. I don't know. It's really inspiring me just with thinking about like our collective and the new paradigm and how things are shifting and that feeling of hope for the future. I mean, I'm hope motivation and I'm possibilities perspective. So I'm very much like, oh, okay, this is giving me hope of like everyone, the more people that can understand this human design language and learn human design and know what their design is, and then sharing their lived experience of what it feels like to be a 6 line, or what it feels like to have an undefined throat, or to, have an emotional wave in a sacral, like you were talking about in the beginning. I think it's just so incredibly powerful and inspiring and helpful. And like you said in the beginning, there's just something about learning from somebody who has lived and experienced it versus like conceptualized it and understand it, right? With like all of us talking about human design qualities or aspects that aren't within our own chart. We're all doing that. And I think that it's just so exciting to me that people can learn from one another the more people learn about human design and sharing that lived experience, because so many of the things that you've shared are just like, I don't know, maybe it's my projector self, but it's just so fascinating. Like even you talking about the golden threads and connecting things like from this, like looking out at the skyline energy just feels so juicy and good. And also maybe it's your lit up sacral that I'm just amplifying right now, but it feels so good to me. But I did want to say, just kind of like adding on to that point of blending systems and not necessarily subscribing to things that feel limiting within human design, even though we love human design. I think it's so important for people to remember that the whole point of human design is to empower you to be your own authority. And if your authority is saying hell no to that thing, or it won't make me happy, or it doesn't feel right, or whatever your authority is, if it is saying no to an aspect within human design, it's not correct for you right now. Like it's not aligned with your energy. And I think that that's so important to remember, that when anything comes into your field, if it's just not right for you, then that's what's correct for you. So I think that there's so many times that I've heard Ra even talk about, how it's that fine line of a system empowering you versus becoming an authority over you, and that human design has the potential to slip into a place of this is what we told you, so you have to do it. And because that's what the system says. It is what it is, and you have no say in the matter. And that is then trying to become your authority, right? So it always comes back down to strategy and authority. But I find that specifically about the system to be one of the most exciting things, because it's always offering up this like platter of like, is this helpful? Is this supporting you? Is this liberating you? How does your strategy and authority feel about this information? Experiment, play with it, see what resonates. And that feels so freeing to me, and also just really supportive, because it is really helpful to put languaging to something that you've always felt. But then it's just so important that the other piece is there to say, is this right for you? Use your authority and you tell me. Like, you tell me how that feels. You tell me what it's like to be a 6 line. You tell me what it's like to have a sacral. Like, that part of human design is so fun and exciting. And the more people that know their human design, I just feel like this is just the beginning. Like, it's just the beginning. These conversations are just going to keep going and growing and expanding. And I really do feel that human design, like, even though there's, you know, so many different schools and teachings, and Rob really did an amazing job at a genius job at synthesizing this information that he channeled and sharing it with people to get it out to the masses. I really just feel like it's such the beginning, because it was like that spark that manifestor gave. And the more that we experiment and discuss and give language to, and then keep going and amplifying one another, it's just going to keep evolving and growing. And I'm just excited to see where that heads in the time that I'm here.
And with kids, like, it's cool, Tessa, to hear you talking about learning originally how to really follow your sacral from someone who was raised by a reflector, who raised both of her kids with human design. I think about it a lot since I'm entering into parenthood. The people in my life that I know that their parents had some system that they really, really, really subscribed to, but that they like projected it onto their kids and didn't allow their kids to experience for themselves those energies. And like, even in my own life, I grew up in like a totally non-religious family. And I always say like I was really a staunch atheist when I was growing up. But I grew up in a family where my parents like really believed in past lives, and we had a family psychic, and we had a binder that had all of our past lives in it. So we knew my stepdad is really into this system called the Michael system, which is like this archetypal soul level system. So from like 4 years old, it was like, Dana is a 7th level mature soul, but not an old soul. And in her past lifetime, she was this, and your mom was this, and you have this karma around it. And like, I was just told that like, your brother's a king and you're a server. And my whole life I was like, oh, hell no, motherfucker. That he's a king and I'm a server, which honestly, I am a server. And the more that I've come into this system, I'm obsessed with the fact that I'm a server. I'm grateful I'm not a king. But it's just so funny how when it's like put upon you and you don't get to experiment with it yourself, you don't get to come into the play of that energy. There's no like openness, how it can be something that is not supportive. So I just wanted to say, like, playing the devil's advocate of this conversation, what's so beautiful about it is like us getting to hear your lived experience, us getting to witness your journey moving into it. And like Shayna saying, you having a different energy than us and us getting to see you experience it is like, wow, we feel so drawn in, and we feel so like we just admire the way that you've felt your own journey, because we see so many people that either this was taught onto them in a way where they don't get to be their own authority, they don't get to feel it for themselves, or they live in this mental plane where they're not having that embodiment. So I also just think it's really interesting how, that it has to be like a core theme in human design, in my opinion, is like, this is not a belief, it's an experiment. And it's not an authoritative system. You're the only authority in your own life. And those like key components, I think, are the thing that keep human design so pure for me, because there's this natural rebellion against the system that you're teaching. You're like, if it doesn't resonate with you, fuck it. And that's your call.
Yep. It's so interesting to be a teacher in this, and then yet still say to a student or during a reading, by the way, this is something you need to ingest and experiment with. Like, build your own reservoir of experiences with it, and it'll make so much more sense to you as it unfolds. But there's just, in so many of us, there's this internal structured system, especially as Americans, wherein when we learn something, we pedestalize the person who teaches it to us. And then we pedestalize the system. And a lot of people don't understand human design their first reading. It doesn't make sense to them because it's filled with so much jargon that they've never like heard in a different way. So me as an undefined throat, is I like to think of myself as like a translator of like, of not necessarily a purist, but of like here's how I think this is going to make sense to you, you who has never had a reading, you who was recommended to me from somebody who's really into this, but you who may not really have a leg to stand on in this system yet and are totally new to things like this. So am I going to go so hard on strategy and authority? No. Am I going to talk about how does your emotional awareness function? And am I going to talk about gut guided, like things? I'm just going to phrase it a little differently so that that person can go forth and prosper with it and feel empowered to experiment rather than being stuck in the jargon of something that they're not really on board yet. And then as they go deeper, I hope my connection's okay. Then as they go deeper, they can come back for more. And when they come back for more, then they're like, oh yeah, this, that, and the other. And like, you guys know that feeling of someone clicking into gear with their design is the best freaking feeling in the world. And when they bring their real examples and their experiments, it's like, oh, yes, that. But you really, it takes time for that to happen.
You just described to me this whole podcast. Yes, that.
And you know, it's so cool for me. I've had a really fun journey with my open head and ajna that's been truly comical at times. I mean, it's silly. It's silly how imprintable I am by something. Like I'm so open-minded that I can hear a new way of doing something about, I don't know, fertility, for example, something I'm really interested in. And I'm like, oh yeah, we can't travel that much when we're trying to get pregnant. Like I can just take stuff on like that. So I have to be really mindful that I'm not living in my mental plane and I'm not using that as authority, but rather I'm using it as a channel for intuition. And so one way that that really comes through for me is I'm meeting somebody for the first time, doing a reading, and my random examples of how they might hear their sacral or how they might feel their splenic authority are so random that I've never said those phrases before, but then they're like, that's me. I'm actually am looking at colleges right now. I actually am trying to figure out what I want to do in my relationship. And I'm like, that's funny. I just said that. And so that's a way that I allow those to be open and to have messages emanate through that I'm unattached to, but that could really land for somebody else and make it more personal. So that was just a long-winded way of saying there's so many ways that each little center shows up differently for us. And each little gate has its own way of filtering the information and how we use it and how we shine. And it's so constant that we don't even realize that that's what it is until you have the language. And then when you do, it's so fun to say, yeah, that was an open head, open ajna moment. And it's a defined G center moment, or that's that throat center coming through. Like when we can point that out to our peers, that's what I call social alchemy. That's what the alchemical process is it's being in relationship and then highlighting something for somebody, being that really good friend, being that really good partner, being like, you're so on purpose right now. You're so sharing your genius right now. You're so in alignment right now. And I can just feel it in you. So this system, same as you guys said at the top of the hour, has given me the compassion and the framework to notice those in other people and help them see it in themselves, what is unconscious or so natural for them. It's such a gift. And I do hope that everybody learns it and learns it in their own way and in their own time. And I think that will be a huge thing in the new paradigm. It already is. We're seeing the rise of these systems in our society because people are so hungry for truth. They're so hungry for somebody to tell them about their real self and to be seen. And so I really think that readers and sharers and healers are going to have even more of a career and a future in abundance in the new paradigm.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the new paradigm. First of all, I love the term social alchemy, and it just is exciting to me to hear that term, but also to observe it in my own life and in different circles. And it's something that I think that we really observe observe and love with getting to meet in person with people, whether that's in retreats or in, our membership, or just gathering in person together with a similar openness and intention that human design offers. I have just seen how powerful that is, like I was talking about in the beginning. But yeah, let's talk about the new paradigm. What is your perspective? I mean, we talk about the new paradigm so much on this podcast, and we're still going to because it's here, and it's been, things have been shifting so much, and it's been, intense, and it's going to continue to get intense. But what is your perspective on the new paradigm, specifically around business and the types of businesses that are going to be successful or not, or anything you want to add in this topic?
Oh, it's so crazy to feel how soon it is. Because, as soon as you learn about human design, you hear 2027, which felt like a lifetime away when I was first hearing about it. And so this kind of global anticipation, like heating up, that's 9 months away, is just, it's so exciting to be a part of it. And I'm sure all of your listeners are just like, wow, we're so close. And yet, whoa, the shedding has been fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like the things that are not in alignment are being taken, not in a cute way, but like it's falling off, it's dying on the vine. And if you're not like kind of tapped in, and I hate to say that word, like tapped in a way that's like, you got to be on some cosmic level, but it is like, if you're not aware that those things are actually on purpose for you and for your best path, then it can feel really jarring and create a lot of insecurity. So I really want to empower people to know that the more you know about yourself, your authentic, energetic essence, what you're here to do, and you accept the way you do it. I always think of that like Alicia Keys clip where she's like, I like who I am. I like how I do things. And I love the way I do my process. Like, she's just got this beautiful affirmation there. And I think the more humans that are tapped into that frequency within themselves, they're going to thrive in the new paradigm. But the piece that I'm most excited about are the rave babies. I'm so excited for the next generation. I think it's so fascinating that, we've been in this 400-year cycle of collective energy, which makes so much sense that things are like at their peak collective. Like there's so much mutation and so much energy being exchanged at warp speed right now, that then we're going to individual energy, and we're going to have all of these right arrowed babies coming in. And, I think for the last 40 or 50 years that this system has existed, it's been, there's been a lot of mutants, or what I like to call rainbow fishes, who are swimming upstream and feeling kind of lonely in that, and feeling kind of lonely in their magic. And over time, there's become more and more and more and more and more of us, and we're finding each other, and we're finding safety. And for there to be another generation coming in of kids who will only know life in that way, and they're going to be building the new future, and they're going to be the new frontier, is really exciting to me. And so I feel the hopefulness. I feel the possibility of 2027 onwards, and I feel a brighter future for the children, especially because, like you said, you're like, how do we have kids in this time? Like, what do we do? How are we going to navigate that given everything that's happening? And I have hope because of the new paradigm.
Yeah, I love that. I love your positivity, because I feel like Shayna and I feel like we have a really good balance of like dark and light, and we let ourselves be in the full spectrum. But ultimately, with a new paradigm, we have to choose the most hopeful and beautiful heaven on earth experience if we're wanting to create that, if we're wanting to help co-create it in our existence. And I feel like there's so much, it just depends on who you talk to in the human design space. Like sometimes clients come to us and they're like, I just listened to a really, really scary lecture on the new paradigm, and now I can't sleep at night, and I need you guys to help me. And so meeting someone who genuinely is in love with the potential and the possibility of what's coming, I feel like is so beautiful. And I absolutely agree about feeling like an alien rainbow fish and being excited for a world where there are these children being born who it would never cross their mind to lie or stifle their emotions. That doesn't even exist to them. It just is not even a potential for them to have toxic individualism and ego where they're disconnected from oneness and disconnected from other people. Like, that is such a hopeful, beautiful, exciting like possibility on the horizon. And if we can fall in love with that and get excited about it, I feel like it's going to just spread like an energy of embracing the change instead of fighting it. And I definitely feel like right now things are crumbling so quickly. A lot of us are getting overwhelmed. A lot of us are fighting the crumble. A lot of us are like, where do we find our footing and our security in this? And I love what you said too about the people who know themselves so deeply and just are like, that is your center. You will have this level of stability as the world is completely shifting and completely changing. And honestly, that's the only stability that we can really control, I want to say, like that we have control over building and cultivating. That is the stability that we get to have. And it's not an external thing. We don't get to slow down time. We don't get to slow down evolution, but we do get to cultivate that inner stillness, that inner connection. And then you'll feel like this tall, strong tree with really deep roots. And when the storm comes and the wind comes, you'll be fine. And also when the sunshine comes and you grow to new heights, like you'll have those roots to support you. So I absolutely love that. And it's so interesting for me having my daughter. I know for sure that she'll have the channel of community as her emotional wave because the North Node and South Node are illuminating 37 and 40 right now. And basically like all of the kids in her class, will also have this same emotional wave of community, which is a quintessential imprint from the old paradigm that they're going to be like bringing into the new paradigm, like this whole group of children that are going to be carrying forward like the highest expression of something from the past to help bring continuity, to help bring the bridge, to help continue to have conscious community in a new paradigm that is very much focused on individualism. And that's one of the things that I think we've been really feeling and channeling as we move into the new paradigm. It's so exciting to feel this individual energy coming to life and people getting fired up and empowered on the individual level. And we also feel the importance of building conscious community and really being able to have that social alchemy as an individual as we move into the new paradigm. And so yeah, that was something that I was excited to ask you about, with oneness, consciousness in the new paradigm, with connection, with community, with balancing all of that with individualism. I'm just curious to ask you, like, what's your take on in-person connection or building community? I know that you do in-person events with your business. I know that you host tea ceremony, which are so beautiful, such an incredible thing to go to in person and such a bonding, connective, like connecting you to oneness through nature and through the tea and through the water. But I'm curious to ask you, just like, what's your opinion on the importance of community as we move into these changes and shifts?
I love this question so much because it's everything to me. And I think we have a real common enemy that we need to name, which is our cell phones are preventing us from really being in real person community. And generators and managens especially need things to respond to in real life. Like there needs to be energetic, nature-based, person-to-person things to respond to in order for us to be able to give our genius and to shine. And I think if people get too far into individualism, it might end up in an isolation territory, which we've already crested into this. A lot of people are very isolated and alone and living on their phones and living in this little screen world right here. And we're seeing how that's impacting and fractalizing our connection to one another and to what's really most important and to what's actually real. And so I think what is real is our individuality, is our person, is our physical form, our uniqueness, our unique qualities, our essences, the way our foreheads wrinkle or our eye color, like the way we dress or adorn ourselves or feel beautiful or show up or express ourselves. Like we need to be doing more of that in this new era, in this new paradigm. And I think that exalted individualism is kind of the highest expression of it, which is I see the way you do you. And I love the way you do you. And if we were to collab, I need you to do you so that I can do me. Not, I need you to be alone in your house for the next 70 years, crumbling in a shell of technology, right? So we really need to be valuing like the in-person community. And so I think I really want to encourage people to live somewhere that they love. In the new paradigm, if you don't love where you live, what's going to encourage you to go be out in community, to go feel one with your surroundings, be it that nature or the literal people that are in the town that you live in? And that practice alone every day, getting out of your house, loving where you live, being around people who are in the real world is such an animalistic, primal way of feeling happy and fulfilled. And if you don't have that, I think that the new paradigm will be really hard to feel like you're on with that like oneness and spiritual awareness. But I think the more you're doing that and the more we're like, actually, I don't want to say that we need to be all like hands in the earth and growing our own food. I think that some people will be really good at that, but the rest of us just like need to be out in the world. Be out in the world just as much as you're on your phone. And yeah, that's kind of my take on what would be really helpful.
Yeah, I love that, especially for sacral beings, like you're saying. I feel like it's so true. Like, get your body moving. Go put your body out in the world so that it can respond to real energetic stimuli that's happening in that physical space. Like feeling that person's energy, feeling the frequency of this space, feeling that and having that movement, I feel like is so important. But for all of us, I feel like definitely it's incredible that we have things like this podcast and this computer, and we get to time travel through time and space to have these conversations, and that everyone listening gets to tune in and we get to all like sit on a astral plane couch together and have this conversation. Like, it's incredible. It's helping our evolution. And at the same time, we have to really intentionally create that salt of the earth connection in order to feel true oneness with other people. And like everyone, I feel like will have a different balance of that, but definitely I think we need to be intentional about it, because all of the powers that be and capitalism has literally preyed upon our attention and sort of like isolating us and promoting a disconnection from our community, from other people, from the oneness of the nature around you. And it's like one of the greatest acts of rebellion and also one of the greatest spiritual medicines that we have access to do that.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned this rebellion energy, because it almost is kind of a rebellion to be claiming your attention, like to be reclaiming what you give your attention to, which is the current currency of our society. And to give your attention to like, especially you guys as projectors, like when you're with somebody, a single other person, for them to feel so seen by you, or like they really are the only person in the world, that's your checkout clerk that day. Right? Like that's the lady you walk by on the street. Like those little things matter so much. And they do fill us up with this hope for the future. And like, okay, yeah, I'm reading about this stuff. I know all these things are happening in the world on my phone, but like when I walk out my door, life is also happening. Beauty is happening. Things are growing from the earth. And if we don't slow down enough, or we just keep picking up our phones intermittently, that won't somatically sink in, and we won't feel that like real tangible life happening. So people got to come back to their bodies. They got to come back to themselves, keep self-studying, keep studying in community, keep going on retreats, keep gathering, start a book club, even if that's virtually, whatever it is that like lights you up. Just remember that you're empowered to create whatever you want in the world. So if your version of connecting with people would be, I want to write letters, that way I don't have to be IRL with you because it kind of drains me, then write letters. Like write letters instead of sending texts. Like pour your heart out, collect feathers and write poems and get cards and print photos. Like do something a little bit like analog and kinesthetic. And And I think that while the world is moving so warp speed, going back in time a little bit and doing something like old school like that, or like sewing a patch on or using a film camera, they feel so good. They undeniably feel amazing for anybody who's doing anything like that. And it's so life-giving, and it connects you to that part of you. And when you're connected to that real, true, authentic part of you, what happens is, this is my experience, and that's could be in a tea ceremony too, where you realize your thoughts get clearer and your best self kind of enters in, and there's room for this creativity, or this problem that you've been dealing with or ruminating on kind of starts to untangle itself, and you know what you need to say to that peer. And you know what you want. You want to call your mom and check in on her, and you can just take that action because time is kind of slowed down for you. And so those practices are so important to you feeling like a human in the new paradigm, and for you feeling like you are in that oneness of that spiritual awareness, which is what we're all here to really experience.
I love that. And I feel like it's so true that, I feel like so many people are struggling right now with just keeping like the faith, keeping positivity in humanity, keeping a positive like heart and genuine love towards humanity. I feel like a lot of people are feeling like they're doom scrolling on their phones, and they're seeing the chaos of the world, and they're thinking like humanity is fucked and people are not good. But if you go out to the grocery store and you actually connect with someone, and you do some little whimsical magical thing, like give them a little gift, or just give them a compliment, or even just connect with someone, like actually eye gaze and like lock in with someone whose energy you resonate with, it's so amazing how instantaneously you have this shift where you're like, we're going to be okay. Like humanity is good, and most people are good, and we have this shared spirit. We have this shared consciousness. We are interconnected, and we are also very emotional beings. Like all of us are learning this emotional realm from the solar plexus as we're mutating into spiritual awareness. The pathway, the portal has been, can you be more open and honest with your emotions? Can you feel everything that you're feeling, whether you have an emotional wave or you're open and you're feeling other people? It's like, are we allowing ourselves to go there with other people? And if you are, it's amazing how it just opens this quantum like positivity, I want to say, like where you just trust, you just feel the higher evolution of all of this stuff happening. And so it's so important, I think, to create those moments for yourself. And everything you're saying, like going on retreats, going to tea ceremony, living somewhere that you love, and actually like going out into the world to a meetup group, or creating one if there's not one where you live, those things are important. And I feel like that has to be remembered. Somehow we forgot that those things are important, and that like biologically we're pack animals, and that even as we rise into our individualism, community is something that is a technology, a tool that will really serve us. It will really ground us, because ultimately our goal as we're evolving is spiritual connection and oneness, consciousness, and being able to feel one another without closing ourselves off, or all of that. So I feel like it's so affirming to hear you say these things, because I think the message that I'm getting is like, this is important, and we have forgotten that it's important. We've put it on the back burner. Like we're like, money is important, paying my mortgage is important, like feeding my children is important. All of those things, of course, are important, but equally as important is having this sense of like connection to other people, connection to life, connection to nature. That oneness consciousness is really like the end goal of the new paradigm. And I think it's important to remember that, because it can just feel like, oh my God, everything's shifting, everything's changing. The new babies that are coming in are going to be born with a totally different energy. Like we're just so like programmed to be afraid of change that we forget those grounding tools that have always been there for us, that we get to transform and bring with us in this evolution. So I love it. And I'm curious, like with social alchemy, what are you most excited for right now? What are the main ways that you're really just lit up with helping your clients? Like, how can people kind of come into your world and learn from you and connect with the offerings that you're doing right now?
What's most lit up for me? I'm most lit up by the system blender offering that I have. It's It's like we're mining for gold across all the cosmic systems. And on that journey, you can see over and over and over and over again, like what your gifts are, what your genius is. And it's so fun to see it repeated across astrology and the gene keys and human design, because by the time you've heard it 100 times, you're like, okay, I get it. Okay, I believe it, you know? But like for most of us, it actually takes hearing your genius many times to believe it.
Yeah.
You know, and even once it's confirmed, then starts the process, the alchemical process of implementing it and starting a project and creating a change and practicing it inside your relationships. So I'm so passionate about that. And then that social alchemy part is on the horizon, where I'm really excited to teach people the tools to use their knowledge of themselves, to apply it to their relationships and keep improving the quality of their interpersonal relationships. And I think that that is the lifeblood of this planet. And when you have really fulfilling partnership and community and family and friends, you are a very rich person. You are a very supported person. You are a very seen person. And that matters more than like almost anything else in the world, more than money. And so I'm really like lit up to create something that's going to be, I don't know, more formal in the training of that. But for now, I'd say the Life Force method and System Blender are kind of my quintessential offerings to connect people to their most beautiful true self and then take action from it.
I love that. Yeah, I have a defined mind and I have gate 63, the gate of doubt. So I love comparing different systems because when you get to see the same truth reflected back from totally different systems or from different angles, even if they're connected, it's like for me, the more and more you see it, it starts to just feel like this undeniable truth that is so grounding, and it really helps you because it's true that you do need to hear back sometimes over and over again before you'll allow something in.
For years.
I love that.
I'm learning from Richard Rudd online right now, and I'm really loving I'm going to do his whole year-long course. And it's so, I, never got to learn from Ra in person. I was not in it when he was alive. And so it's really such a gift to be learning from Richard right now, because he's such an unbelievable channel of consciousness.
It's true.
And I think he's just really building out this fractal of information that is so deep and so vast and so wide and so specific and so cellular. And he's just dialed in that. So I'm loving learning and just watching him system blend and watching people just see like, oh yeah, there's just always this evolution that's going on. And to be a human is to be eternally growing. And I'm a lifelong learner. And so that process of evolution is so near and dear to my heart too right now.
That's so cool. Yeah, he's incredible. Honestly, such a special being. That's really beautiful that you're getting to learn from him. And where can people find your offerings? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, at Social Alchemy Institute on Instagram. That's really where I'm hanging out most days. And I would love to connect with anybody on there and just hear how this episode landed for them and what's going on in their world right now and how they're feeling about the future and how they're stepping into themselves and how they're empowering others to do the same thing on their journey. And yeah, that Instagram would be the place.
I love it. Awesome. Well, this has been so fun. My dolphin tea, tall, blonde, sunshine sister that I feel so interconnected with. It is literally a joy to connect with you and to listen to you, to receive from you today. So thank you so much for being here. I'm curious, as we're wrapping up, is there any final thing that is coming through to you that you want to share with our audience? Like, what is really kind of the thing maybe that you're downloading this spring as we move into a new season, the astrological new year? Like, are there any last words on your heart that you'd want to express?
Being a light is not cheesy. Being a light is goddamn work in this world. And if you're a light, if you're a light worker, if you're a lighthouse, if you feel like you have this inner flame within you that you don't want the world to extinguish, that takes discipline and devotion and creativity and a strong spirit to cultivate. And I just want to empower anyone who resonates with any of those words to like be devoted to maintaining your light and to shining it, especially when it's dark, especially when it's hard and when you don't want to. we need all of the lights on, all in every area of your body and in every aspect of your life. So I just want to empower those lights to stay on and to stay bright and to choose how you want to be seen in the world. Like you can literally have a mindset shift of like, I want to be seen as a powerhouse. I want to be seen as a beacon. I want to be seen as a leader. But choose how you want to be seen and watch that ripple out into your life and make a difference. And that's what I want to empower everyone and leave everyone with. Thank you for asking that. And thank you for having me, Dana and Shayna. It is such a gift to be seen by you and to get to nerd out in all of these vast ways. I could truly do it forever. And I'm so grateful that you had me on for this conversation today. And may it be for the benefit of all beings who listen.
Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to follow along and learn more about human design.